Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today, we're going to talk about the numerology of September, which I also call the Capstone Month in numerology. And if you listened back to the podcast in August, where I talked about the numerology of August, September, and October, you may want to revisit that. But what I will remind you of is August, September, and October hold a really unique energetic signature in numerology in terms of their frequency, where August, the numerology mirrors the numerology of the year prior. September is where the universal month and the universal year in numerology are the same. That's why I call it the capstone month. And October is like a preview into the year ahead. So every year we have this special code. And to dial down a smidge deeper, whatever personal year you are in your numerology, it mirrors the same code. So September is not only a 9 universal month in a 9 universal year, it's also, if you're in a 2 year in your numerology, it is a 2 month. If you're in a 7 year, it's a 7 month. So it's like a doubling down. It's more like a leveling up, actually. But what it does is it mirrors more than it capitalizes on. But I call it the capstone month because that's just always been the way that I felt the energy transmit, especially in years of working in my own frequency and numerology and working with clients and people and looking at the patterns and the energies and what plays out. And just so you all, if you want to dive deeper or follow along in the show notes, in the show description, I've got a great blog on the capstone month in numerology, which shows you how to calculate that your own personal numerology, your personal year. And then I also have these other blogs if you're in a 1 personal year too, all the way through 9. So you can really remember what that looks like and draw your own correlations and your energy. And remember, I'm focused here in the numerology. So we're not talking about the astrology, which adds in its another code. And I will do a separate podcast for the astrology of September because we enter into eclipse season. So not only are we in this capstone crescendo mirroring month energetically, numerologically, we also are in eclipse season in September. And I will communicate to that to you all in another episode. So in this episode, I am going to focus on the numerology. And one thing I want to start with before I get into the 9, before I recorded this podcast, I was looking out my window and there was a Roadrunner. And I have seen this Roadrunner before, but I hadn't seen Roadrunners in years. When we lived on this other property years ago, I would see Roadrunners often. And it was the first time in my life I engaged with Roadrunners in my environment. And was fascinated by them because they're so squirrely, right? They're Roadrunners, but they're squirrely. They kind of dart around and run all over the place. And they have such a unique body, that long tail, and they're very their features are very striking, I guess you could say. But this morning before I recorded the podcast, there was this roadrunner that I've been seeing, and he was standing, he or she, okay, I don't know the gender, right? He was standing in the yard and he was standing still staring in the window at me. And roadrunners, they're not very still. Like they dart all over the place. But this roadrunner, its appearance, which is usually they're erratic. And it was standing still and very composed, just looking at me in the window. And I thought it was such a beautiful mirror for the energy of the 9 and September's numerological resonance that we are in training with. Whereas the Roadrunner is known for its speed, but it slowed down and it looked very graceful. It was not in a frenzy, it was more elegant. And that to me is the theme of September. Even if I pull in the astrology with it being eclipse season and this profound climax of energy numerologically, also what is going on with our sun and our planet as far as the solar flares and what is being emitted through our atmosphere, what's going on with the earth, the Schumann resonance, the earthquakes, the tsunamis. There's a lot going on that feels dynamic, dramatic, drastic, things happening at very quick and elevated vibrational frequencies, very fast pace. But it was like the eye of the storm. And I'm not saying that September is going to be stormy, but there's so much frenetic and kinetic energy happening around us. But this Roadrunner was just standing still and paused and poised and elegant. So think of the energy this month from a place of the eye of the storm, from being able to stand still, to attune to your own presence and frequency and stillness in the midst of frenzy and chaos and fast pace, and being able to notice that contrast and bring them into harmonic resonance. A great thing to revisit, by the way, as I say that, and I'm thinking about that, I did that polarity exercise last month when I was talking about the polarity in astrology. So Scorpio and Taurus, Libra and Aries, Pisces and Virgo. What am I forgetting? Cancer and Capricorn, Gemini and Sagittarius. I think I got everybody there. But I did a polarity exercise, and that I had so many people reach out and they were like, this is utterly hysterical. My friend Yael reached out and she said, I had to laugh because she was talking through some of her astrology with me and how she was noticing she was not pulling in the opposites, but it allowed her to notice that polarity of bringing into sync the two polar opposites into a harmonic resonance. So that exercise might be a wonderful practice to revisit for any of us this month because it will help from a numerological standpoint, an astrological standpoint, and psycho-spiritually integrating a new state of cohesion in the midst of what may feel frenetic, topsy-turvy, pulling you in multiple directions. So wherever you are, that might be a really great support system in your own integration and self-awareness developmental process. So anyway, be the Roadrunner. Be both alert and quick, and that's what I love about the Roadrunner because it is alert and quick, much like squirrel energy. But the Roadrunner is still when it matters and swift when truth calls. Think about it that way. Be still when it matters and swift when your true note, your truth calls you. And that's the energy of the 9, learning to shed, to let go and surrender, but to take clear, intentional action that follows your truth, your inner knowing, even when it is frightening, overwhelming, or scary. So let's dial into the numerology a bit because the code is quite interesting. It's not just a 9-month in a 9-year, it's actually an 18-9 in a 9-year. 2025 equals 9. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. We are in a 9 universal year through the end of 2025. And as you all know, the 9, and if you don't know and you're new to numerology and you're like, what the heck is this girl talking about? What is my numerology? I've got tons of resources and old podcasts that you can check out to dive into numerology because it's so fascinating. And it's just another one of those aces, in your back pocket to pull and better dive into your own codes and frequencies and meaning. But we're in a 9 universal year. The 9 is ultimately about surrender. It's about closure, sacred closure. letting go of what no longer serves you in your path forward, because 2026, we will be in a 1 year, which is about initiation, new beginnings, individuality, setting out on a new path. It is about your mighty I am, ultimately. And think about it that way. If next year is the mighty I am, the bigger you, the true you, the real you moving forward, what needs to disintegrate, shed, or be let go of that does not need to be carried in your backpack on the journey ahead? What rocks do you need to drop? And maybe that's work related stuff, behaviors, relationships, attachments, anything that is keeping you in pain, suffering, lack of wellness, wholeness, or well being, discomfort, dis-ease. Think of it that way. Metabolize it from that perspective. So we're in a 9 universal month, but we are in an 18 month. September on a monthly level is the 18. And the way that I calculate that is we're in a 9 universal year. So 9 plus 9 September equals 18. And the number 18 carries a different vibration. It's a higher octave of the 9. So it's the combination of the 1 and the 8. 1 plus 8 equals 9 when you break it down. So what does that denote? What does that mean? The 1 is the number of power, initiation, and leadership. The number 8 is about karma. It's about infinite potential, and it's ultimately about power struggles. And the 9 is about merging into universal compassion, innate knowing, innate wisdom, your true note, your truth. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. So I'm asking you all to think about this, and I'm going to break it down a little further. But before I do, one thing that I want to mention is if you go onto my website, and we'll put a link to this in the show notes as well. I have been working behind the scenes for a little bit of time on creating a membership platform, and it's going to be called the Frequency Field. And it's not just any membership platform, but it's something that I have been designing and in training with behind the scenes. And what it is it's a community-based platform to support you in remembering and harmonizing with your pure tone, your true note, and becoming more entrained with the resonance of your oversoul soul. It is a living space to recalibrate bioresonance where you feel yourself more clearly and your field can align with what's true for yourself and in community and other like-minded, hearted, vibrational seekers and searchers. And on that platform, as we build it out and it evolves and it grows, we'll move together through community gatherings and a whole library that we'll build of teachings, astrology, numerology, oracle, tarot, intuitive gifts, mediumship, frequency, solar flares, extra dimensional beings, all the things, energy transmissions monthly. But the podcast will shift a little bit as a result of this, because this is the place where I will hone in more so on the monthly energy transmissions from the astrology and the numerology and different things going on in our world, in our frequency, and it will start to shift a little bit. But you can check this out. Just go on and you can sign up to be alerted as to how you can join. And there's also kind of a cool thing that we are doing, by the way. It is a lifetime membership discount. So basically, you get like 33% off for lifetime membership. And it's super accessible. And of course, it's all around master numbers. You know that the 22 and the 33, those things are already in there. But this is something, this is a community, a place to be held, to be witnessed and activated in real time rather by just listening. It's about engagement and retrainment with your own frequency, your own bioresonance, where you can dive a little bit deeper and feel supported in the frequency of community and the field. So check that out. The link to that will be in the show notes to learn more and just to get on the newsletter. If you're on my newsletter, you will also receive some information about this. So I just wanted to give a quick plug and a heads up. Let's dive back into the numerology. Thanks for obliging me on that, and I hope to see you in the field. All right. So one of the things that I want to delineate a little bit here is the difference between the energy of the 9 and the higher octave of the 18. The 9 is ultimately about change. Yes, surrender is probably the truest note of the 9, but it is a season of change. And if you think back over 2025, what has been changing for you? A lot of us have experienced. Experienced some pretty drastic, definitive changes within myself and my soul, but it's really been a remembering. But the 9 is about change. It's also about endings, and sometimes they're drastic endings, very clear and blunt, or even seemingly disastrous endings. But it's also about closure. And piercingly, it's about clarity, the clarity of closure, and making that closure sacred, finding the meaning in endings, the meaning in change, the meaning in closure, and sometimes the meaning in uncertainty, to be able to navigate that in a greater state of grace and trust and understanding. So you feel equipped, you feel true to yourself and true to who you are attuning to. The 9 is also a number of inspiration. And I don't talk about this as often when I talk about the attributes of the 9, but there's quite a bit of inspiration that accompanies the energy of the 9, because with clarity, oftentimes in the 9, even though it may feel sometimes like calamity, again, eye of the storm energy, like, so a storm is brewing and you're standing still for a moment and there's piercing clarity. It can also feel like calamity, but with that calamity, there's like a divine spark of inspiration. So look for where you've been inspired this year. When has your inspiration shown up in 2025? And as we close out this 9 year, meaning September through December, in the completion of this frequency and this energy of the 9, reflect back to 2016. That was the last time we were in a 9 year. So 2017 is when we started a new cycle. So look back 2016, 2017. What has changed for you since 2016 and 2017? And we know what changed for all of us, the pandemic, right? That's an easy one to point to because a lot changed and shifted really dynamically in that time frame. But if you look back to that time and reflect back for yourself and your own personal journey and your life circumstances and who you are and where you are today, what has changed? What endings have you come full circle with at this point in time? Where has the clarity shown up for you this year? Where can you draw those correlations? And where have you been inspired this year? What the heck inspires you? And there's no rush in September. Okay. Don't forget that, because the energy of this month may mirror back a frenetic urgency, because the 9 has urgency with it, meaning it's not as frenetic on the surface as it is this deep, innate, I have to get something done. I have to get it done now, or else everything will end, or else I will die. It's like, I don't mean it that drastically and dramatically, but I kind of do. Kind of do mean it dramatically. Is the 9 comes with this, it must be done or else, it's deep, it's innate. Where has that kind of energy shown up for you, that urgency? But remembering, this is not about rushing. The cycle is already completing itself within and around you. It's a matter of your perspective and recognition. So that's the energy of the 9. And things that we will do in the frequency field are, we'll dive into like the archetype of the 9, looking at the tarot, which is the Hermit, and how the Hermit relates. And if you know anything about the tarot and the Hermit stands alone on the edge of a cliff, a mountain, And of course, he looks like a hermit, he's like got a cane and a cape and he has a lantern. And the card is pretty dark and not dark in an evil sense, dark in it's shadowy, it's dark, it's heavy, there's stuff being shed, but his light is shining a light out into the world, and that light represents the light of the world and the light within us, shining our light from the inside out rather than receiving light externally and then transmitting it. It's about your inner radiance, your inner light, and that inner light guiding the way and being the guiding light for humanity, because ultimately 9 is the number of the humanitarian, meaning this everything is interconnected. We are all one, very metaphysical, very mystical. You contemplate these things and this imagery for yourself. Now let's talk about the 18 and how these numbers play together. The 18 is comes with caution. It comes with dreaming, healing, and paying attention to your physical body. The 18 is ultimately about dissolving illusions, cutting through deception. So the clarity that comes with the base frequency, if the 9 is about surrender and clarity, the 18 is about dissolving illusions, dissolving delusion, cutting through insanity with piercing clarity, revealing hidden truths beneath appearances. The 18 smashes delusions, superficiality, people playing roles, the mask that we wear or other people wear innately because we're human and we all juggle that and do that. But the 18 pierces through deception, and it asks us to walk with discernment. Discernment, that interconnection of the head and the heart, which comes through listening, stillness. Again, sound like the eye of the storm. There's a lot of this energy coming through. And in the tarot, the 18 is the moon. And if you think about the moon, just literally, we know it represents the emotions, the unconscious, our intuition, and ultimately our divine feminine, our wisdom, being able to take human action, but following that thread of our innate wisdom, our innate truth. So paying attention to your physical body this month is a great touchstone and practical, literal way to check in with yourself. Is your body hurting somewhere? Are you actually physically sick, or is your physical body limiting you physically? Are you struggling in that department? Or do you notice your back is hurting somewhere or your jaw is tense? And what I encourage you to do this month physically, when you notice what is transpiring physically in your body, wherever pain or dis-ease is gathering and settling, notice where that aligns in your chakra system. So, in essence, if your jaw seems to be really tense or you're grinding your teeth at night and you had to get a mouth guard, I had to do that because that was happening for me. Notice that's your throat chakra. So, what is your physical body calling awareness into your consciousness? So, if it's throat chakra, are you speaking your truth? Is your inside voice matching your outside voice? Is the words you speak, are they honoring the truth within yourself and your soul? How are you speaking? What does your self-talk sound like? I mean, I can go into a whole diatribe around each chakra. If it's your lower back, if it's more root chakra or sacral chakra stuff, is it you are feeling low in vitality or passion? You're feeling unsafe, uncomfortable in your own body. Do you feel not supported in life or in yourself? Do you think about these things? Your safety and security directly relates to your root chakra, the sacral chakra, obviously about your emotional quality, your emotion life, your passions, your desires, your creativity, your sensuality and sexuality. If it is middle back, if it's gut stuff, there you go. That's a little bit of solar plexus action right there. Are you moving from your self-will and your ego? Or are you moving from your inner truth, your mighty I am, your higher self in connection with your human self in that resonant state of being the sunlight of your own life and radiating that light out into the world, but also receiving that radiance? Is it in your heart, your lungs, your shoulder blades, your back, your heart chakra? Does it have to do with compassion, with love, with feeling expansiveness and oneness versus feeling contract, limited, and closed off, bogged down, afraid? Or that you give so much to the world that you don't know how to receive? Is that imbalanced? Is it headaches? Is your head hurting? Are you experiencing piercing headaches? Is it your third eye? Your innate knowing, your intuition, the inner eye? Are you listening with your inner eye and interconnecting that with your voice and your heart and your truth? Or are you living out externally out in the world and not listening to the intelligence within, the divine infinite wisdom within? Or for some of you, it could be really radical and it could be your crown chakra, something connected with your head, your actual scalp, the top of your head, your hair. That's the crown chakra. That's connected to, think about it, our hair represents beauty. And I think about people who have had to go through big treatments like chemo and losing their hair. That is emotional. It is kind of a wild rite of passage and being seen, being bare, the bravery and the courage that comes with that. Is there something going on in the crown of your head that could be about that is bringing you into awareness around your crown chakra, which connects you with divine source energy? It's that funnel of light that becomes both down and through you of channeling sacred, spiritual, divine, intergalactic and sacred teachings that come through the universe and filter through your body cells, DNA, organs, bones, every aspect of your being. So just pay attention to your body this month. That's a great practice I am offering there to align whatever is going on physically in your body with your energetic system, the chakra system. I think that can be very helpful. In the Capstone Energy Month, remember that this energy is not about frenetic scramble. It is about sovereignty of choice, discernment, clarity of voice, but it's also about closure. So this is a wonderful month to take action, however that looks for you, around finishing something up, closing something out, or maybe it's simply the awareness that it's time for something to end or time for an ending to be set in motion. And that may just be a decision. And there's nothing just about a decision. A decision is that moment of change. And that's the energy of the nine. So remember, the hermit, the energy of the nine, gives us the wisdom of pausing, standing still. The moon helps us to navigate the shadows by trusting our inner guidance with discernment. And together, this combination of the nine and the nine, or if you add 18 plus nine, that equals 27, which is a whole other octave and frequency of the nine because we have the combination of the two and the seven. And the two is ultimately about balance, harmony, and divine reciprocity, whereas the seven is about the seeker. It is about navigating and putting together the divine puzzle pieces, the architecture, becoming both the architect and the architecture. And I know I have referenced this multiple times, so you're going to have to tie this together however you see fit or with whatever resonates with you. But ultimately, this month is asking us to be clear, to be true, to be discerning, to find inspiration, and to do it with grace. So some questions you might want to reflect on are, Where in my life am I ending something and it feels frenetic when grace is really asking me to simply pause and bless it? Where am I trying to end something in my life in a frenetic or chaotic way when my divine grace is asking me to simply pause and bless it? This month is encouraging you to become alert and aware, but not rushed, and remembering that your completion, wherever completion is showing up for you, does not need to be forced. It's about receiving it. And you may want to visualize yourself standing at a threshold, poised, clear, elegant like the Roadrunner, not frenetic, standing still and allowing yourself to see a path forward unfold. What path is unfolding for you that you know you are destined for? Where is in what direction or orientation is your soul being pulled? And in order to move forward in that, in truth and grace, what is it that needs to be let go of or surrendered? And this may be about forgiveness. Maybe it's about forgiveness. I was with my sisters last weekend, and we were standing in my sister's office, and she had these really lovely cards, and there were these Bible verse cards, but each one of them had like a one word and then a Bible verse that correlated with it. And I pulled forgiveness. And it was so funny because I was like, gosh, I feel like I've done a lot of forgiving, whether it's of letting go and shedding and forgiving others or forgiving myself, which that's the harder little situation to tackle is self forgiveness. Right. And I was like, gosh, I've really forgiven. But on my drive home, I reflected about forgiveness, and I really recognize in some places where I still hold myself hostage and that I'm not forgiving myself. I know how to give other people grace, but I don't always know how to receive grace or give myself grace. And so I really contemplated that and have been aware of giving and receiving grace, not only to others, but even more poignantly with myself. This month is a very powerful and rare alignment. And wherever you are in your personal year in numerology, I encourage you to maybe check out one of those blogs to remind yourself, like if you're in a 1 year, gosh, you've been in a 1 year under the blanket of a 9 year. It's about endings and beginnings simultaneously. So it can be a mixed bag of new starts, fresh starts, and then having to let go. If you're in a 2 year, everything is focused through the freaking lens of relationship and other people and what they are reflecting back to you to learn about yourself. And that nine blanket says, let go of old ways of being, living, doing, expectations. Let go. If you've been in a 3 year under this nine blanket, there's a lot of creativity in the three. But I tell you what, I love the three and the nine combo because the nine can be like the hermit and so introspective and introverted, but the three gets it out into life and it overloads the heck out of its plate. That's what I love about the three and the nine, because the nine says, cull it down, let some stuff go. And the three's like, more, more, more. Let's do more. I've got more ideas and more things to do. So it's a beautiful balance of human being and human doing, extroversion and introversion, and creativity with patience and contemplation. And if you're in a 4 year under this blanket of the nine, you'll also know I love this combo because the four is the get her done energy. It's the organize, it's the clean house, it's the foundational practical infrastructure. But when you combine that four with the nine, boy, can we put a lot of pressure and expectations on ourselves, and we can run ourselves ragged trying to run the whole darn show. So it's about suiting up, showing up, but then letting go and letting God, and trusting, discerning, delegating, letting other people come into your life, being able to receive. That's a real tricky one to navigate if you're in a 4 year with the nine. really not only showing up and doing, but also being able to receive. If you're in a 5 year under the nine blanket, a lot of shifts and changes, and it can be very dramatic and dramatic, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this all came together. Or, oh my gosh, my whole life is falling apart. This is awful. Or why do all these bad things keep happening to me? Like that's the inner it's the that is like it is drama queen, martyrdom energy. And then it is like right place, right time energy. And it can feel like a freaking seesaw of energy. One moment, everything's coming up roses, and the next minute, your whole world is falling apart. So know that that energy, like a cocktail shaker, is not there to unhinge you. It's unhinging what no longer needs to be carried so you can be attuned more to your divine path forward. Can be very chaotic, but it's not intended again to break you down. It's intended to break you through. And yeah, I'm being super trite, but that's the frequency there. If you're in a 6 year under the blanket of the nine, woo, I have to just do a big exhale with that one because it is a lot about hearth, home, family, responsibility, taking care, and being able to surrender to being taken care of. When the weight feels like it rolls all uphill and all onto your shoulders, sometimes completely breaking down and surrendering and asking for help, allowing yourself to be nurtured and loved on versus just doling out the nurture and love, finding the balance in nurture and care and safety and security, but also transmuting your responsible self into not only being responsible for yourself, but allowing others to take the burden of responsibility and turning it into something more synergistic. If you've been in a 7 year in the combination of the nine, I imagine you've been kind of honed up because that combination for me, it's like I just get into my own little world and I love to learn and grow and study and educate myself internally and figure out all the puzzle pieces. And then I forget to connect and communicate and share those things with other people because it is so groundbreaking spiritually and personally. And it's true. And it can feel so strange to connect with other people and really intimately connect because it is so contemplative and mystical and it pushes the boundaries of your oneness with the universe, and it asks you also to get out of yourself and get connected with other like-minded people. But it's a real year of development and growth, and it can feel very quiet, very behind the scenes, but so loud to you that other people may not get it. So you can feel a bit like a fish out of water, but in yourself you feel so true and real. I love that combination of energy. And God bless you if you are in an 8 year in the nine, because it is full of a lot of spunk, a lot of moxie, a lot of hard nosed driving, but also committing to the highest path of leadership, the highest path of integrity, and moving forward, not so much with power, but with a sense of fluidity, a sense of infinite trust, and shedding the layers of ego and all of the attachments that we have and finding true light, true source energy, true power. And for those of you like me in a 9 year, in a nine universal year, a nine personal year, and a nine universal year, it's a lot of change. It's a lot of letting go. It's a lot of closure, but it's also a lot of inspiration and hope for what is coming forward in the cycle ahead. And it's not over yet, but there's something really sweet to that energy that when you feel it and it is piercing and true. And then we get up and we go about our day, and then we sink back into old ways of being, living, and doing that we know we've outgrown. So it's moving away from whatever mask or imposter has been projected out in your own field and coming back into pure tone resonance with yourself and your soul as you carry that forward into the next cycle. So I hope this was helpful in me giving just a few attributes and tuning into those frequencies of whatever year you are in. But no, this is a month where completion, release, transcendence can happen. There's a humanitarian or mystical call. There's notes of pure tone resonance and clarity. There's moments of inspiration. But ultimately, it's about the art of non attachment, holding love without grasping, letting go and letting God, surrendering to win. I'm using all my trite statements right here for this. Let go and let God, surrender to win, die to be reborn, jumbo shrimp. That doesn't have anything to do with it. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that. But it truly is about acceptance and letting go and really living in a new state of being. Where are you feeling that in your life? What are you still holding on to? What are your deepest primal fears? And are you open and willing to let them go or to heal them or to become just purely aware of what it is you really fear? And when you act and live from a place of fear or desperation or lack, and what would it take for you to imagine a life where you lived in utter freedom, utter oneness, utter wholeness? Dream that into being. Because as I said, with the energy of the 18, there's an element of dreaming. So, of course, pay attention to your dreams, but dream your reality forward into being in a divine world, in a destined world. Can I imagine a world where there was no war, there was harmony, there was no poverty? And I'm throwing these things in at the end because I've been thinking about these things recently. I've really been metabolizing and contemplating. And I sometimes say to myself, gosh, Amanda, can you really imagine a world where there was no competition, no aggression, where there was harmony and community? And guess what the answer to that is? That's really hard to imagine. If I get honest, I'm like, dang, I mean, I would love that. That's so ideal. And I'm like, Pollyanna, but could I really imagine a world where that exists? I don't know, but I'm going to work on it. I'm going to become willing and open to imagining it, because something can't exist if we can't imagine it first. This is a month of imagining new, bright, bold horizons into reality. Condition your field, re-entrain your field, and surrender to what is no longer serving you or this planet in your path forward. Take care, everyone. Be well.